Michael Ostrolenk here, and I'm speaking with Jeff Kuhland. He is a certification team instructor from MovNat. Not only is he a certification team instructor, he was my certification team instructor. I spent 5 days with him this last month. This is the fall 2015. Incredible 5 days of training. Not only is the MovNat a very important system, which I encourage everyone to learn about, but Jeff is an incredible instructor. So thank you for training me for that week, Jeff.
Absolutely, it was a pleasure. It was a wonderful 5 days up there, Washington, D.C., getting to work with everybody, start to move naturally, and explore what is MovNat, and get you guys moving on that training side.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. We will jump into what is MovNat. Before we do, Jeff, tell us a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. My background started off, I grew up just always active, playing in the woods, keep moving, and started playing soccer from a very young age, and was competitive through high school. And then I got into track and cross country, which really inspired me. And what I liked about it was that the more you train, the faster you got. And it was very even. There was no politics, and you could just see a goal and go after it. From there, went to James Madison University, where I majored in sports and rec management with minor in exercise science, and also ran Division I track and started to get into the strength and conditioning side. So I did my practicum there and did some internship hours as well in the strength and conditioning room. Got my first personal training certification and graduated from JMU and was looking for my first job as an adult, figure out how to enter the professional world, and lo and behold, I got a hold of Erwan through a series of contacts. Been talking with some people in the adventure racing community, and that went on through a few series, and they said, hey, he's looking to host some certifications and some workshops here in the United States. Maybe you could help him out to find a place. And that turned into a basically 2-month experience with Erwan in Summersville, West Virginia, running MovNat the retreats there. And it was just an incredible experience, and took everything I knew from strength and conditioning and more of a traditional fitness background and turned it on its head, and I realized that everything wasn't necessarily so linear and, progress 5% every week with your weights. And there was all these other movements and aspects of fitness, and running around barefoot again and not wearing a shirt, and all these things I've been missing out on. And so it started to really change my perspective on fitness, on movement, on life, and really altered the course of my life.
Nice. So you mentioned Erwan, just for sake of our listening audience. Who is Erwan?
Erwan Le Corre, he's the founder of MovNat. So he established the system, brought this forward. Amazing guy from France, and came over to the United States and said that he was starting in the United States because we were the most accepting to change and new things in the fitness industry. And so he was really excited to bring that here, and he's been an inspirational person for me, mentor, and someone to help bring me along in my fitness career.
Nice. 2 months in the woods in West Virginia with Erwan sounds amazing. So tell us a little bit about MovNat. What is MovNat? Why should we be interested in it? Why should we go learn it?
Yeah, absolutely. MovNat is a physical education system, and it's designed to teach us to move naturally through our normal human range of movements as efficiently and effectively as possible. So we want to learn to do these movements very quickly, but we also want to be very safe when we perform them as well. And so there's a lot of principles and foundation work that we lay at the different courses and workshops. And we talk about what builds each movement. We talk about tension and relaxation, posture and breathing, sequence and timing, and all these aspects that build every single movement, and then how we relate to it. And so we like to lay this whole foundation, and then we go through our basic movements and advanced movements, and they're all things that you would normally do if you lived a natural lifestyle.
You know, it seems to me that if you look at our ancestors who lived a more natural lifestyle, pre-industrial revolution, even pre-agricultural, and some of our ancestors still live today living that way, they grow up physically, mentally, emotionally, and physically different than we do. What do you see that happens? I'm kind of doing a broader view in our culture, in the Western world, that leaves us not moving naturally, like compared to either our ancestors or hunter-gatherers who still exist today.
Yeah. Quite simply, we're not forced to. We can exist on the couch, in the car, and in the office chair and do quite well in life. You can have a high-paying job, you can be a respected member of the community, and there's no requirement to move. And so uh, moving naturally is no longer necessary, and so it's something that people have to purposely seek out, and it's becoming less and less common knowledge. You know, everybody has an idea of what it is to eat healthy. We all know that eating less processed is better than eating more processed, and that fruits and vegetables are inherently pretty healthy. So, as far as nutrition goes, people instinctively have a pretty good idea, but movement, we've become very dissociated from it because it's no longer a requirement. We no longer squat deep. We no longer pick stuff up. We've got people to do that. We've got, you know, an app to take care of it, a device to take care of it, and so quite simply, we're no longer forced to do it, and it has become an option.
It's pretty amazing having gone through the 5 days of training with you, just learning the very basic movements of human movement, like, you know, things that you see a baby learn to do as they grow into a young child: crawling, walking, carrying, lifting, balance, etc., etc. Talk about some of those aspects of the whole holistic program, which is MovNat, and why you all look at all the different aspects of it, and why the bigger picture with them all coming together is so important.
Absolutely. You know, most people, when they see MovNat and they see other fitness programs, they look at the very advanced end of it because it looks really cool. Like,
Yeah.
I want to swing from the monkey bars and do muscle ups and run and do that jump over the giant gap, landing on the rock and not falling into the river, and all these cool things. And we're in this age of, wow, you know, everything is amazing. And on YouTube, there's the extreme example of everything. But when we look at movement patterns and developing the average person to be a good mover, we start at the very beginning. And we go through that same developmental learning pattern. As a child, you're born with perfect mobility and no stability, and you have to start to earn that stability. And as we age, we go through and we start to roll. You know, first babies move their heads, then they start to roll around, then they crawl, and then to stand up, they perform a deep squat. So they go from the ground and they squat to stand, and they start walking. And of course, when we begin to walk, balance is a huge challenge. And so we review all these fundamental patterns for multiple reasons. A, it helps us to relearn and repattern all of our movements so that when we get to the advanced ones, we have it going on. But also from a strength standpoint, from just all these different ends, we find it really, really helpful to go back to the basics. And if you can get a great contralateral pattern during a crawl, it's much easier to learn it there than to learn it during jumping. Because once we start jumping, you're going full speed. It's an explosive movement. And if we don't have that right pattern going on, there's not really enough time to correct it. Either you're jumping or you're not. Versus crawling, we can slow down and very methodically build all those movement patterns. And people are amazed the amount of strength and coordination it takes simply to crawl again.
Just speaking of crawling, I think it was amazing because you told some stories, like teaching stories during our 5-day instructions of amazing athletes. You know, they can throw a football, they can run in a certain direction and jump over stuff. You know, they're very primed for a particular sport: basketball, baseball, football, MMA. You know, whatever happens to be. Maybe MMA is not the best example, but the other ones, you know, very, very, very specific movement patterns. And yet you take some of those athletes and they can't crawl. They don't walk correctly. I mean, some of the basic things they're not doing correctly. And they're building upon those poor patterns. And I can just imagine a lot of the injuries that they face, and not just professional athletes, you know, amateurs and guys who get off the couch on the weekend to go play. You know, they're just setting themselves up for injuries. Can you talk about both athletes and learning how to do these basic movements is so important? Just everyone in terms of reducing the possibilities of injuries and stuff.
Absolutely. As many injuries happen on the field as off the field. You see articles about, you know, a baseball player throwing his back out sneezing or reaching for the remote, knocking on a bat and trying to hit a homer. So we need this foundation of just functional movement for life. And it's very similar to the FMS. We highly endorse them, but we first have high quality movement patterns, then we can layer conditioning and sport specific skills on top of them. But if we don't have a quality movement pattern and we start to try to add either conditioning or sport specific skills, we're now trying to build an upside down pyramid. And it's simply not going to work, and eventually we're going to get injured And a lot of times, athletes are simply the best at working around the inefficiencies and movement deficiencies that they have. Just because somebody's in the NFL doesn't mean they move well. And if we go back to that FMS, the scoring system, sometimes they can rank pretty poorly and below some of the general population in their movement scores, but they can still run an incredible 40 time, catch a ball over their shoulder, and all these amazing athletic endeavors. But when we look at the really good athletes, the ones that make it long into their career, they tend to have a more solid movement foundation. So it's great if you can make it that level, but we don't want you to be able to play for 1 or 2 years. We want you to be able to play for 10 or 20 years until you want to retire, not being forced to retire because of injury.
Right, right. Other aspects of the whole program include breathing and balance. And, some of the stuff that I do as a coach is teaching people how to breathe. It's pretty amazing to find people actually don't know how to breathe properly. And not only do they not know how to breathe properly, there's a wide range of types of breathing that can be beneficial for certain things that they're trying to do in their life. And there's just not the cultural knowledge of it. Speak to how breathing is one of the major important aspects of the MovNat system, and then we'll get into balance.
Yeah, breathing is one of the 6 key principles there, and the 2 images that we most often use to talk about correct breathing is, if you imagined a baby breathing, what does it do? It's got that stomach rising and falling, and it's completely relaxed when it's sleeping. And so we want to breathe diaphragmatically, and we want to breathe correctly and not be chest breathing. So our breathing is directly linked to our nervous system, and based on how you breathe, it can either relax you or it can stress you out. And it's amazing the difference when we start to get people going through those breathing drills and just slowing down and figuring out how to reconnect that. And most people are unaware of their breathing in general and how to breathe properly. And it actually doesn't take very long to start to reprogram it, to learn how to breathe properly, and then start to take it into small movements and then into more intense movements as well. But the other thing we normally see is that people become so focused they forget to breathe. The easiest one is the balance beam. You get on the balance beam, and people all of a sudden have all these bad habits. The arms come straight up, and then they hold their breath. And they have horrible balance. And so we're like, all right, A, relax, and then B, relax again and breathe. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, I can stand here. And so it's this stress reaction that fights good movement. And you don't own a movement pattern unless you can breathe well during it.
Nice, I like that. So movement, balance, breathing. What are some of the other 4 aspects?
So we've got tension and relaxation.
Okay.
You've seen when people are extra tense when they don't need to be. That's more the case too often than too relaxed. And then we've got sequence and timing, meaning things need to happen in the right order and they need to happen at the right time.
Nice. Yeah, and it was a great, I use the word holistic, and it really is a holistic movement system because all those aspects are really important, and you teach them from minute 1 through the whole 5 days or however long the program you might be teaching. That's really important. Now, all the people who attended my program with you were old guys, not old guys, but older, 30s and 40s and stuff, professionals. And it seems to me that young children would benefit greatly from MovNat. So they don't learn the poor behavior, movement patterns to begin with. They can learn them properly, so they don't set themselves up for to stress down the road. What kind of movement are you seeing in terms of educating younger people? And it doesn't have to be kids, even teenagers in the MovNat system.
It's the same principles. Sometimes for younger kids, you need to make it much simpler. They're not as excited sitting through 30 minutes or an hour of discussion before we get started. So, 2-3 minutes, and then we get moving and do a little drill. And kids have a lot less bad habits than adults do. And see kids' movement start to deteriorate when they go to school because they spend such a long time sitting and are unable to move. Before then, the average child moves a lot and moves often, and they're constantly playing. And when kids play, they play very hard. They play tag and they run and they chase each other. And if you play tag as an adult, it's really, really difficult. And as a kid, we don't think about it as fitness or intensity. We're just having fun and playing. So for kids, we need to just simply go back to the basics. And one of the huge goals of MovNat is to bring MovNat all the way down to the very beginning, so preschool, elementary school. And rather than going to phys ed class and learning all these other things, MovNat will be the foundation. And so let's learn how all these basic movement patterns, let's go through, and then you can apply them to sports later on if they want to train for that, and apply it to dance and to running and to all these other more sports specific or conventional applications. But if we can take MovNat and bring it to all the professionals, get it to high level, get it in the UFC, get it in professional sports, get it in all these other areas, we're going to get national attention and be able to drive it down into the schools versus trying to start one elementary school at a time. It's a very long route to try and spread the word. But the goal is, rather than having to rehabilitate adults into moving well, we teach children to move well, and they just maintain it their entire life.
That's awesome, especially considering the amount of pain and suffering, financial and personal, that you see as people, our generation and even younger, like late teens, early 20s, diabetes, heart disease, bad knees, bad backs, all from, as you said at the very beginning of this conversation, moving from the chair to the chair in the car to the chair in the school, back to the chair at home or the couch. It's unfortunate. It's almost de-evolutionary in certain ways that what we're doing to our kids, and they will eventually become the adults that we will have to take care of. So really happy for what you guys are doing at MovNat. Now, MovNat, you have a website and lots of great videos and articles and stuff. Where can folks find more about the program?
Yeah, go to MovNat.com. On there, you can find information about the workshops, about the certifications, about the retreats. At the bottom of the main page, you can sign up for the monthly newsletter. And each month you get an in-depth breakdown of a movement pattern with instructions and pictures of Erwan showing you how to do that. There's announcements, of course, any events coming up. There are mods, which are the movements of the day, and there's a month's worth of programming on there, and it goes from different weeks, beginner, intermediate, advanced. And so you can figure out where you fit in that, and then you can adapt the others as necessary. YouTube.com/MovNat has hundreds of videos on it and more coming out, but they show all the movements we teach during the workshops and the certifications, and then some. And we just have tons more variations that are going to be coming out. Erwan's book will be coming out pretty soon. We're all very excited about that.
Yeah.
BreakingMuscle.com has a natural movement section, which is heavily MovNat focused. You can find a lot of great information on there. Of course, we've got Facebook and Twitter pages as well. You can go on and find additional information.
Now, you mentioned certifications and workshops. What are the differences between the two?
Yeah. The workshop is aimed at the average participant that is interested in their own practice. Certification is someone that is interested as a professional sharing the MovNat practice with other people. So, essentially, do you want to train yourself, or would you like to train other people?
Nice. So, any last words for our listening audience about yourself and MovNat and the future for both?
Yeah, absolutely. I would highly encourage you to check it out. There's been a missing link in the fitness industry for a long time where people are looking to get this holistic program that'll take them forward. And MovNat did change my life. It changed my perspective, not only on fitness, but as a whole. What's important, friends, family, and move well, and being able to take this mission and share it with others, and being able to share movement with friends and family has been just an incredible thing for me, and something that I look forward to doing more. But to me, the ability to move well is the ability to be healthy, and they're so interlinked that you can't separate them. And so when you've got this opportunity to engage in a training system that allows you to access that, and that has a sustainability so you can move well into 80s, 90s, 100s, that's the goal, so that you enjoy this long, healthy life. And it's focused on that aspect. And of course, if you like to train performance, we've got that as well.
Fantastic. Well, Jeff, thank you for your time. As I mentioned at the very beginning of this conversation, you're a fantastic instructor. I would recommend anyone who's on the East Coast, because that's where you primarily teach, to do one of your either workshops, or if they want to be certified to train with you. There are other certified instructors as well around the globe, I believe. So there are classes that you guys teach all over the world.
Absolutely. We've got a really, really strong team, lots of great instructors. Anybody on the certification team is really highly qualified. I've trained with most of them and really recommend them. And of course, anytime you get to spend with Vic or Juan is always a treat as well.
Sweet. Thanks again, Jeff.
All right, thank you.